Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Matt D'Amico, and in today's Retro Bit, I guess it's time for another auctions, donations, and thrifts. Alright, let's get this thing started. Alright, first up is an eBay find. It's nothing particularly exciting, but I did win this auction for $20, including free shipping. With shipping prices being what they are these days, that means the item itself was basically free. This is a power supply for a 1541-2 or 1581 drive. I've been sharing one brick across multiple devices, so it'll be good to have a second one just in case I need to power both at the same time. And at just $20, it was hard to pass up. These supplies aren't notorious for failing and damaging hardware like the Commodore 64 bricks are, but it never hurts to do some testing first. These supplies provide both 5 and 12 volts DC, and the pinout is even conveniently printed on the label. Everything checks out with the multimeter, so I feel comfortable connecting it to a real drive for a final power-on test. It seems to work just fine, unlike the audio in this recording. So let's move on. Next up is another eBay find. This item is an identical replacement for a piece of hardware I had back in the 90s when I was using my Amiga for video subtitling. I've been unable to find my original, so I picked this one up for $36, which is much less than these things usually go for, if they even show up for sale at all, which isn't that often. This is a GVP Genlock, an external Genlock for all models of Amiga. It allows you to mix and overlay computer-generated graphics on top of an NTSC input source, and features S-Video connectors, a rarity among Amiga Genlocks. Another unusual feature is that it interfaces to the machine via the DB9 joystick port and can be controlled directly from software, and even implements an API you can use in your scripts. No manual sliders or knobs here. I plan to do a full episode of how old-school linear fan subbing used to be done, and having this is the last piece of the puzzle. Next up is a gift I received for Christmas. What could be better than some retro for the holidays? This is an S-Drive Max 1050, a disk and tape drive emulator for Atari 8-bit home computers. I picked up an 800XL in a previous unboxing episode, and this will allow me to finally get some software on the machine and test it out. I love the attention to detail and how it looks just like a real 1050 drive, only in miniature. A full-color touchscreen LCD on the top allows you to control the device externally, but it also has software that allows you to configure settings and mount images from the Atari as well. Here's another Christmas gift to the channel courtesy of Simon, who hand-delivered this exquisitely wrapped parcel straight to my front door. This is a magnetic whiteboard for organizing your small parts during disassembly. It will definitely come in handy in future projects, so thank you, Simon. Yeah, you try spontaneously writing upside down without any practice first. Next up is a donation to the channel from Bill Atkinson. When I mentioned in an earlier video that I didn't have one of these, Bill reached out to offer this complete kit. This parts kit is everything required to build a full diagnostic harness for the Commodore 64 and 128. When assembled, it will allow the Commodore diagnostic cartridge to test every aspect of the system, including the keyboard, joystick ports, cassette interface, user port, ROM chips, and more. I'll be building this kit in an upcoming episode, and it will be invaluable in troubleshooting and repairing Commodore machines in the future, so thank you, Bill. Next is a very late birthday present. It was ordered way back in August and just recently arrived. Any guesses as to what this could be? If you guessed Ultimate 64, then give yourself a cookie. Its arrival coincided with the release of the Ultimate 2 Plus episode. Coincidence? Anyway, I'm looking forward to building and reviewing this product in a future bit. It really is a thing of beauty. While we're on the subject of the Ultimate 64, this next item was donated to the channel by Justin. You may remember him. He also loaned us the SX64 and Grid laptop in the previous unboxing episode. As it turns out, he has his own Ultimate 64 installed in one of the new 64C Kickstarter cases. Knowing I was going to be building an Ultimate 64 myself, he 3D printed and sent these brackets, which are used to mount the keyboard in the new case. Once I'm able to purchase one of the Pixel Wizard clear cases and the Indiegogo keycap campaign becomes a reality, I should be finally ready to assemble my perfect Ultimate 64. So thank you, Justin, for helping me get another step closer. This next item was a thrift find. Full disclosure, I picked this up almost a year ago, before the pandemic had started. I haven't been out thrifting since the numbers started going up again. To me, there's no reason to risk catching or possibly spreading the virus to someone who's in an at-risk group simply so I can find a bargain. Anyway, when I saw this keyboard on the shelf, I immediately recognized it was out of place. Das Keyboard makes high-end mechanical keyboards with Cherry MX switches, so to find one in brand new condition for only $5 was a surprise. While it's not exactly retro, I have been using it with the Mister and Raspberry Pi. It's also made several appearances in past bits owing to the great clicky sound it makes. Okay, last item for today. This is another eBay auction that I won for $29.99. This particular item is something I've never owned before, but something I badly wanted when I was young. In fact, I wasn't even allowed to have one of these as a kid, so I only ever got to use them at my friends' houses. Anyway, this acquisition finally closes the loop on that particular chapter of my childhood. This $30 NES was billed as untested, which is eBay speak for broken. The most common failure mode seems to be worn or dirty cartridge connectors. Regardless of what's wrong, I didn't actually buy it to collect or play NES games on. More on that in a minute. Apart from a squeaky door, it looks to be in decent physical condition, if not a bit dirty. It's a bit more yellow than the auction pictures made it appear, but nothing a good cleaning and a little retro bright can't fix. I want it looking nice for what I've got planned. In the box were a bunch of manuals for games the NES didn't come with. Also some random things like a Where's Waldo booklet and Disney DVD points. Great. So here's the reason I bought this broken NES. The plan is to transplant the Mister into the case, using the existing buttons, LEDs, and connectors to interface to the modern hardware. It'll be a long-term project, and I plan to design and 3D print all of the required mounting brackets and adapters to make this a clean conversion. Still, I'm curious if this works or not, aren't you? Well, that answers that. The flashing error is most likely the 72-pin cartridge connector. And one more issue is that the cartridge locking mechanism appears to be broken. I know, it's broken, you only need the case, don't try to fix it. Sorry, I can't help myself. I'm not sure how this is supposed to help, Simon. Okay, I think I've got it now. And here's our number one suspect. New replacements are available, and it may be the best route if I planned on keeping this thing, but I'm going to try and clean and deoxidize the contacts just to see if that helps any. Okay, cleaning done. Let's test it out before reassembling everything. With that working, let's take a look at the locking mechanism. See the white plastic bit? There's supposed to be a metal pin in there that latches the tray down, but it's missing entirely. There are used replacements on eBay, but between that and a new cartridge slot, we're looking at more than this entire NES cost in the first place. I read about this trick online. It's not elegant, but it does work. So, decisions to be made. Keep the NES and source replacement parts, or turn it into a new home for the Mister. Let me know what you think in the comments. So that's it for this episode of Auctions, Donations, and Thrifts. As always, most of this stuff will appear in future episodes, so I hope you enjoyed this bit. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Retro Bits.